Hello and welcome to another episode of Make Love Real, How to Create More Love in Your Life. I'm your host, Mia Saenz. And in this segment with me, I have Leanne Galloway. Now I'm excited to bring her to you because she's a matchmaker and she's going to get to share with us how to be your own matchmaker, which is really important and very cool. So welcome to the show, Leanne.
Hi, thank you so much for having me.
It's awesome to have you here. Would you like to share with the audience a little bit about your background and what brought you to the love of the work that you do?
I went through my own terrible breakup, which kind of rocked my life about 10 years ago. And my mother, I was very lucky. She was one of the founding coaches back in the day when life coaching was nothing that anyone had ever heard of.
Mm.
So she encouraged me to go work with the breakup coach. And I thought, it was so life-changing for me, the things that I was taught, that I just knew that I needed to do it for somebody else. I needed to help other people and share the tools. So I decided at a very young age to go back, become a coach. Well, it still, again, wasn't even a thing. And I studied it. I got my ICF certification. I studied with the Relationship Coaching Institute, just to get as many tools as I could to help people on the journey. Now, I think my original goal was I wanted to be a breakup coach, help people get through the breakups. And what I didn't realize was that was going to come part and parcel with helping people just in general with relationships and to find love. And so I went on the coaching journey, and along the way, I was introduced to an amazing matchmaker in Toronto who said, listen, I think you would be great. Why don't you join my team? And I'll teach you how I match, how we do this. You know, you already have so many of the skills that people are going to really appreciate. And so I joined her team. That was about 4 years ago. And then I recently left that agency to go to my own and help match people just on my own.
That's really wonderful. You've
Yeah.
had a lot of experience and it comes from passion, what you've created. And I love that, right? Because when we're passionately connected, these are the teachers, the coaches, the people that can really shift somebody's life. And in your story alone, I could feel it, just pouring out. That's wonderful. I love that. So let's talk a little bit about be your own matchmaker.
Yeah. So many people obviously come to me to be match made, but they think, oh, you're just going to find me a person and then that's going to be the end of it, right? Where there's lots more to that story. And so there's a lot of things I help people and teach them about love, about how to find people, meet people, as well as introduce them to great people. So I love that phrase, how to be your own matchmaker, because it's so empowering and it reminds you that you actually have all the tools at your disposal. Sometimes we just don't want to dig into the tools, or we're not willing to actually hold the mirror up and go, hey, what can I change here? Could I do something differently, right? We get so stuck and afraid, and we don't want to actually do something outside our comfort zone, when in reality, that's what dating is. Dating is
Yeah.
getting outside your comfort zone. And if you don't practice it and get better at it, then it's just like anything else, then you're going to stay exactly where you are. I'm a big advocate for the book, Feel the Fear and Do It Anyways, because honestly, the fear doesn't go away. It's not going away. You're just going to figure out how to deal with it and how to move through it with your why, with your purpose. Why is going on dates so important for me right now? Because I want to find a life partner. Okay, so what are things I can do to prep myself? So one of the things I talk a lot about is date prep. What are you doing before the date? And Mia, I hope you don't mind if I share that, like, before we started, you were like, I'm going to take a second. and you just took a breath and grounded yourself. Sometimes that's all we need before we meet someone, just to calm ourselves down for a second, remind ourselves, I'm going to go meet a lovely human, and I'm going to be curious, and I'm going to learn something from this experience, whether it's I learned I didn't like something, or I learned I actually might like something, or I just enjoyed a great conversation, whatever it is, right? So, prepping for your date. Some people, one client, I love the story. I had been working on her digital profile, so her online profiles, and we've been working on messaging, and she had a date set up with somebody, but it wasn't for like another week because she was going to be going on a vacation, which also is like the toughest to navigate when you're dating. And so she ended up having one night where her plans got canceled right before she was going to leave. And she decided to just text this guy and say, hey, I'm actually free tonight. Do you want to meet up? Let's meet up sooner than later. Like, let's make this happen. She's introverted. She doesn't like doing any of this. So we're working on her comfort zone. And so anyways, he said, yeah, of course. So she ran into Starbucks, fixed herself up, got ready. She was already out and went and met him. And, I speak in the current tense, but now they're married.
Wow.
And
Yeah.
for her, she realized, you know what, if I give myself too much time, I'm out. Like, I'm not going to make it happen for myself. So everybody is different. You kind of have to suss out what works for you. I know I like to get ready. I like to take time. I would make sure I did my hair, my makeup, just like as I did for today. I would feel good about myself, and then I would head out, right? So I think date prep and what you need to do beforehand is really important to work through the fears. So
I
that's what
agree
we
with
work
you.
on a lot.
Yeah. That's very cool because there's many different ways that we can prep, right, for a date to calm ourselves. But
Yes.
it's about being in the present moment with yourself so that you don't spin out of control before you get there and have your inner child be on the date instead of you, you know?
Yes. Oh my
Yeah.
gosh, it's so important. And then what happens if we don't is we tend to make harsh judgments. We tend to overshare on a date. That is one of the biggest things I talk about with dating. Do not overshare. I love when clients are like, so do I talk about my ex on a date?
Do not vomit on them.
No, we're not talking about that stuff. This is just a chance for you to have casual conversation with someone, right? Probably at this point, you've already learned they're within my age range. They're looking for what I'm looking for. They are X, Y, and Z of your requirements. So now all you need to do in an hour's time is go, does this person look nice, smell nice? Do I have an okay time with them? And then you go on a second date, right? And it's so important because otherwise, if you show up all flustered and making it even a bigger deal than it is, than just meeting a new person, then you are not going to show up and be unique and show your best qualities, right? All that stuff's going to be hidden behind all the nerves, and that person's not going to get the best opportunity of you. And then in the same vein, sometimes we can put it on too much. So I was guilty of this. I used to say I would put on the Leanne show. I would show up and I'd be my best self. And I think sometimes I'd bring my coach Leanne to the table, and I had to realize, no, this is not the place for that. This is the place for you to just sit, relax, have a cool conversation with someone, and see how that goes. So it's learning for everybody. And what you said to me about being present, because there's no rules, there's no set things like you must do this and you should do this. Now there's tips that will be helpful, and there are things that have been proven to help you on the journey, but ultimately you have to do what's best for you. So if you're present to how you feel and what you really want, what you really need, then you're going to make the best choices.
I love that. I love that. And I love your energy. You're just so great. It's fabulous.
And I'm also trying not to put on the Leanne show. I'm just being my authentic self.
Yeah, I love it. It's really important for us to feel comfortable on those dates. There's different stages of our own self-development. that allows us, when you said it's not about bringing up your ex, I call it vomiting or regurgitating, because we can be in those spaces where all we talk about is our trauma and our drama. And what happens is a potential beautiful mate is out the door because maybe they've done their work and they're not fascinated. Or maybe you get stuck with somebody who wants to rescue you, and then they're out of the picture, in 3 or 4 months because that's their MO. It's really about calming down and getting to know somebody on the level that you want to actually have, right?
Yeah. And I loved when you said about kind of just going back to the exes. It really shows someone that you're actually not ready and not available. And people don't actually always read those signs. And, we're going to talk about this in a bit, but this particular sign is a red flag. I think in the media nowadays, there's this idea of, ooh, red flag. And we kind of get silly about the idea about red flags, and there's funny memes and things like that. But at the end of the day, there's actually set red flags that are important to watch for, that really show you that someone is not ready for a relationship, is not available. And those are the things you need to be watching for. And it's a great, this red flag checklist that we're going to talk about is a great tool because you can reverse it. Right? Are you showing up in any of these ways on dates? Because then that's going to be the red flags for the other person. So back to the letting
What?
go.
Can I just say that is so cool, because we can have our own red flags about us, right?
Yes.
But we don't think that. We're so into not the self-examination or the self-reflection and self-responsibility that it's always, we've become a society that it's someone else's fault. Right.
That's the hugest thing in dating. I'll hear when people are when I can tell that they need coaching, that they're not ready to be match made, it's because there's so much anger or blame coming up when they talk about dating. Oh, well, all men are just like this, and this is why I can't find love. Or all women think this and want this. Those big generalized statements that reflect that you haven't gone through to see what are the examples of your dating experiences, what have they, what are they showing you, but more importantly, why are you attracting those people? And how this is another way too on those dates to kind of reverse that fear, is to just remind yourself that you are the chooser. You are choosing, right? So when I sit down at a date, I'm not trying to impress my person sitting with me. I am trying to go, are you the person for me, right? So if we get outside of our head that way, it's a little bit easier to manage those fears. But at the same time, if we haven't done that inner work and we haven't seen, what, in this dating example, I could have been a better person. I could have shown up more. Or I've ghosted somebody before. Maybe I shouldn't do that anymore. Or whatever that looks like. And being real with yourself, honestly, that's the biggest thing I come up against with clients is the letting go. Sometimes we don't even realize we're holding on to stuff. We have no clue until I'm like, you just said something interesting. Can we dig into that for a second? And then it reveals, you know what? You're still kind of hung up on your ex, and every single person you're meeting, you're comparing to the ex. So we need to let go of that, decide what are the great factors we know now you are looking for, which is wonderful that you've experienced it, but we got to let go of the bad stuff too. And huge for people. I've also been divorced. When you go through divorce, it's a huge, massive, life-changing event. You have to do the work, or else every person who shows up is not going to work out. And you're going to be left wondering, well, I don't know why everything isn't working out. And that's when we get angry and they blanket black and white statements.
Such a lot of amazing information that really the average person doesn't think about, right? And
yeah, we don't.
But it was really beautiful how you posed everything and shared it, because I love the energy about it, and the way that it's about us individually. I also have to say, being one who also operates on the self-love side to evolve her clients before dating when you use the mirror, right? The mirror reflection statement, because literally we don't do that stuff. We think that it's somebody else coming in to rescue us, or coming in Prince Charming on a
Yes.
horse, or I want, the Leave It to Beaver marriage between the men, whatever it is,
Yes.
right? Whenever we preconceive having our notions in our head, we have to wipe those out and start from scratch.
Yeah, I loved when you said about, oh, I'm going to lose my train of thought. Uh, One of the red flags you brought up, oh, when if you think someone wants you to rescue them, or you're waiting for them to rescue you,
Mhm.
this is a big thing. And it's interesting. So sometimes people will come to me, I'm ready for matchmaking. I'm like, great, tell me about your life. What's happening? What are you passionate about? And there's nothing. And then there's nothing. And then there's nothing. And I have to go, okay. So we need to get you involved in some community activities. We need to get you reconnected with your passions, because what's going to happen now is you are just looking for that relationship to be all those things. And, all life coaches, we use the wheel of life. We talk about all the slices in the pie, and a relationship's one slice. So if the other slices are lacking in that pie, then what's going to happen is you're going to try and make that one slice everything. And ultimately, that is just going to blow that pie up. It is not going to work out. It's going to be messy. And so making sure, and I use the phrase be interesting, not just interested,
Mhm.
but because you have to have your own life and your own things in order, so that somebody else will be attracted to you because of that energy. Like, that is just putting it right out there to bring it back in. But also, you ensure that you're going to be two cars driving along with each other, right? You don't want to jump into somebody else's car. You don't want them jumping into your car. Red flag. You got to have your own stuff and feel excited about your own life.
Yeah. That is so vitally important. I'm really glad you said that. It's really interesting. I don't know if this is historical
Yeah.
or if this is more of a new thing, in the last, I don't know, 20, 30 years, but really the whole jumping into somebody else's life is somebody absolutely wanting love, but not doing the work ahead of time to create it.
Yeah. And that's when codependency comes into play.
Yeah.
And that's when we do the ignoring. So we want a relationship so bad that there's some of these red flags popping up, but we're going, what, that's okay. Maybe I could deal with that, right?
Mhm.
Now, there is a certain extent, we need to be realistic. I think this is something that's gotten lost with like Instagram and online dating. Like, now we just have this perfect picture of how everything's going to look. It's not going to be perfect. We are not perfect. We have to be okay with our own imperfections. So you need to be able to assess things in a realistic way, right? And does this actually work for me? And being able to see that so that you can disengage. So many people are stuck in relationships or things that aren't relationships, and they're like, I don't know what's happening with this. And I'm like, we need to get honest and get over the fear of being alone and get away from the person who's actually not right for us. And we have the signs, it's clear, right? But that's tough when all you want is a relationship. But if you find that life balance, then that you can breathe into that space, and then you won't be so afraid to disengage if something isn't working.
Mhm. Absolutely. Such a plethora of fabulous information, seriously. Now, the red flags, you have a free gift, and I want you to share it now because we're probably going to talk a little bit more about red flags after you
Okay, great.
share it.
Yeah, so I have a great red flags checklist. And like I said, it's not your cliche, he doesn't pick up his socks, red flag, he's messy. It's not about that.
Mhm.
It's about, like, does this person have a terrible negative attitude about everything? Or does this person, I'm just looking at my list right now, like things like, I love this one. I love the way they look, or I love their job, and so I'm going to keep dating them.
instead of the
Red
person.
flag, get
Right,
out of
yeah.
there. And then the rescuing. Does this person want me to rescue them, or do I want to rescue them?
Mhm.
That's a huge thing. This idea that we can change people. If I just stay with them a little bit longer, I know they'll stop smoking. Or if I just stay with them a little bit longer, I know they'll, change their view on X, Y, or Z, right? But the crutch is that no one changes unless they want to change. And from yourself, change is hard. You got to put in the work to change. And nobody telling you to change is actually going to make you change anything. So, what makes us think, oh, I can change this person and it won't. So, that is another thing to look for. Am I trying to change this person, or it's okay to have differences, and it's okay to accept the things that aren't perfect about our potential partners? But that's where you go, is this something I can live with? And is this something that I could let go and be okay with? Or is it a definite deal breaker for me, right? Other things on the red flags checklist that I'd love is anybody who's like impulsive or irresponsible or immature when that stuff comes up, right? Making sure, sometimes there'll be people who, oh, well, we went on 2 dates and now we're going to go on a trip to Cuba for a week. And I'm like, whoa, that's okay. Let's take a look, right? So sometimes, and that comes in then to the love bombing and sometimes narcissism, and like leads us down that road of people that, are not good matches for us.
Mhm.
I know this sounds simple and obvious, but if they're married or if they're in a relationship and they are not available, we find a lot of comfort sometimes in things that are not available because it's not real. It's like, oh, well, it could be real. And we fall in love with the dream or the idea of it, but it's never actually going to be available. So, as simple as that sounds, if you meet somebody that you really love and they're married, red flag, next. No,
Mhm.
we have to move
Right.
on, right? Um,
I want to bring up,
Please.
if I may, the red flag of the job. I know I've heard it, but the whole job thing. Oh my God, he has a good job. So they're going to, I've heard about women who actually do think that that's like the number one choice to get in a relationship with an individual instead of the heart connection or the good qualities. I think that the good job is on the list, but it's definitely not in the first 10, literally, because
Yeah.
we want to know if somebody is kind to their parents, if they're kind to you, if they're a good person, if they're solid, if they've done their inner work, all this stuff. Otherwise, you're just trying to go after a check, literally, right?
Yeah.
Go after the money. You're not going after anything else. It's really interesting how many women, from whether it's past programming or I don't think it's part of our cellular DNA, but that whole thing of, and it could be about being taken care of, because for whatever 10,000 years, humanity always put women in the back end, right? More or less, and they took care of women, kind of. We were like
Yes.
property. So whether that's the thought, people should look at that. What is the thought behind that type of comment,
I
right?
love that you brought it up because so many clients will negate matches because, oh, I don't know if I could date somebody who did that, or I don't know if I could be with somebody in the trades or things like that. So here's the deal. There's like 5 areas that you should be on the same page with about your beliefs around them, with a partner. So one is job and education. So you should be in the same realm. I'm going to say again, on beliefs. So if one of you is ambitious and one of you is not, that might not jive. That doesn't describe what you do. That doesn't describe what it looks like, but it's, are we on the same trajectory? Do we have the same beliefs? Somebody who maybe has their PhD might not match well with someone who only finished their high school, which is still, there's so many entrepreneurs who own amazing businesses who just did high school. But if it's a huge value to them, then I go, okay, that's okay, because as long as you're expecting someone to believe and be on the same level that you are at, it's okay to want to suss that out. But if someone, for instance, is like, oh, I have this type of job, but I really want a doctor, or I really want a lawyer, and I go, you can only attract what you are, and that's where it lives. And that's, that you guys are not going to be on the same lifestyle, and you're not going to be on the same belief system around education and work.
Mm-hmm.
So that's how I kind of approach that. And I encourage people also to try people on. Part of the whole dating is like, oh, I don't know if I could meet this. You know what? Just try it on. See how it goes. I remember myself when I got into my divorce and then I was dating, I, said, oh, I don't think I could date somebody with kids. And then I tried someone on who had kids, and I realized I could. Now that person wasn't for me, but I was really glad I had that experience. So for instance, when people say, oh, I couldn't date somebody who had kids, I go, have you tried it? Mm-hmm. Because until you've actually made a conscious effort and realize what works or doesn't work for you, you can't really take that off the table. So going back anyways, the 5 sections: job and education. You're looking at spirituality and faith and what that looks like in your life. What is the role? What does it play? You're looking at money. How do you spend your money? How important is money to you? What does it look like, right? You need to be on the same page with that. We also need to be on the same page with family. Like you said, are you a family-oriented person? Are you talking to your parents or your siblings once a week? And then somebody else is like, I don't really like my family and I don't talk to them ever. It still could work if you have the same idea for where you want your family to go. But if you're on the same page to start with, it makes a huge difference. And then health. If you're someone who takes care of your health and is conscious of it, you don't have to have a 6-pack. You don't have to, be a vegetarian. But if you're conscious of it and it's a role in your life, you're going to need somebody else who is, because if they are someone who doesn't like to do physical activities, doesn't care to cook, enjoys eating out, and you are someone who wants to cook all your meals and you plan your classes for the week, you're not going to be on the same page. So that's my 5 areas on that guy.
That's amazing. It's wonderful. I love it. Very thorough. You're just like this amazing fountain of knowledge. I love it. And how you present it is really beautiful. Thank you.
You're welcome.
People absolutely do need to check your stuff out for sure. It's really great. So before we leave, and believe it or not, it's almost that time.
I can't believe it.
I know, it goes by so fast. Would you like to share with us something that's on your heart and mind? You've shared a lot, but something that you want us to know.
I think really what it is being brave and taking chances. I share my story. I have it on my blog, but I and also there's never good timing for anything. So even as a matchmaker, I had a friend matchmake me. And after meeting this person, I decided they weren't for me. I harshly judged them. I ignored them. Now, it also was a terrible time. My mother was very sick with cancer at the time. And I was like, no, that guy's not for me. I'm not going out with him. So with some nudging, I was encouraged to go out with my now husband. And he did not show up how I thought my husband was going to look like, be like. Ultimately, once I got to know him, he was all the things that I was looking for. And I just think, man, if I hadn't have just taken that chance and gone for it, then I would have never known. And I know so many clients and friends who have said that same thing, or I just got to the date, or I just took a chance and thought, I'm going to go meet this person. And it's those moments where we actually shed, I think, some of that armor that we have up, and we go, you know what, I'm gonna give it a chance. And that's when we can show up authentically and then authentically connect with somebody else. So taking chances and being brave. Dating is a skill. So if you want to go downhill skiing and you have never been skiing, and you just decide to go up a Black Diamond Hill, which is like the hardest of the hills, it's probably not going to work out so well. So dating is the same. Sometimes you just have to go on dates for practice. And I really encourage people to do that. When I meet somebody and they say, I haven't been on a date in a year, I'm like, why not? You just need to get on dates, because again, it's facing that fear, going out, practicing the skills, and then you're going down that black diamond, feeling good, knowing that you can handle the moguls or like whatever comes your way, right?
Yeah, exactly.
So that's my biggest things. If people take more chances and be brave and try some people on, I promise them they will meet somebody great.
Yeah, it's fabulous. Thank you so much.
Oh, it's been so great. This is awesome.
You're amazing. And thank you everyone for joining us. We'll see you in another episode of Make Love Real.